Hey guys, Pren here. We're jumping off the FXR right now. We're getting back onto the long travel kit for the Tacoma, so I'm going to show you guys what I'm working on now. So the weather in Jersey has been a little bit damp lately, so I haven't been able to be outside welding. So the first thing I'm going to do is rebuild the CV axle. And if you remember in the last video, we had to break the race out of the cage that sits within the burr field. So the axles are driven through here, and there's a circlip that goes within that little indent there inside the race, and it is a bear to break apart. I tried it on a 20-ton press. I had it given to all the way up to somebody who had a 35-ton press. They couldn't get it. So eventually I gave it to a friend, and she had some friends that worked in a diesel shop. And they didn't have a press strong enough to do it, but what they did is they heated it up, which I had asked not to get it heated up, but in either case, I guess they did what they did and they heated it and they got it broken free. I'm not sure if that's going to screw me up yet, but I'm going to go ahead and put it together and see. They look fine, just a little discolored a bit, but I really don't know what the effect is on this yet. So we're going to go ahead and start assembling. If you remember, I bag and tag everything, so I have all my stuff for the driver's side and the passenger side. So that has all the it has both sides, upper and lower, but it has the burr field pieces in it, the balls, the cage, and the and we're going to be stuffing these races back in. So that's where we are right now. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting some things together. I also have a bunch of different lube for inside the cage, and I'm just not sure yet which one I'm going to use because I've been reading different things on which one's better. The kit, I also got extended boots because this is now, the axle is going to be a little bit longer by 2 inches. So I got extended boots, and that came with some grease too, but I don't know how good this grease is yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and do some investigating on all that information first before I start putting everything together. I also got my Total Chaos instructions here, and we'll see how this all goes now. I've taken over the kitchen table again. All right, guys, so we have the Tacoma truck only. That's why the snap ring here, it's actually a little bit even further down into the race, and we had to break it. So we're gonna go ahead and put everything back together now. I have my race back in the cage, and now I'm gonna go ahead and drop this into the actual burr field cup, and we'll grease it up and then put our bearings, our balls back in. That's funny. All right, guys, so originally I had these two races marked, driver side, passenger side. But when those fellows applied the heat, I think they burnt off what I had written. I'm fairly sure this is the driver's side, so I matched up with the cage that came out of the driver's side. But upon further investigation, when I was looking at them, I noticed this indent here. So I'm not sure if that's factory or for whatever reason that the axle that had this is a replacement. So that's a little intriguing. The reason I wanted to keep everything the same is because parts kind of wear together. But at this point now, and once I drive this in, then I don't have a chance to switch it around. So I might just investigate a little bit more and look through some of my older videos just to see if I can really determine which side was which. But I do find it odd about the about this line here. That's interesting. So in either case, we'll see how everything goes. We're still cracking away here. All right, guys, so I have my Burfield cup. It's all cleaned out. And if you remember, since we cut those original axles, you can't use the same grease in there because a lot of medical particles have fallen in there, and you don't want that marring anything up. So make sure you clean it out and pack it with new grease. All right, guys, so we're going to start assembly of our burr field. You can see the slots on the side. The big openings will align with these tabs that kind of come in a little bit, and you're just going to drop it in. You gotta kind of get the right angle and then just turn it the way you want to orientate it in the correct way. Remember, for Gen 3 Tacomas at least, the axle circlip area is towards the bottom and the cone is facing up. And now we're going to go ahead and cone meaning on the cage, the narrower part. So we're going to go ahead and start sticking with the brass punch. We're going to manipulate the cage, get our balls in there, it's funny, and start working our bearings back into this, into the Burfield cup. When you're doing this, you want to make sure that your race is aligned with the cage, the opening in the cage, as well as the indent in the actual Burfield cup to make sure the ball can squeeze in there. So right now, guys, I'm just dropping them in by hand and I'm just working my way around. Eventually, you're going to get to a point where you're going to need a brass punch to punch some of the ball bearings in. But for example, let me see if this works on. Because we have so much room right now, they're just slipping in nicely. But we're going to go ahead and work our way around. All right, guys, so I actually didn't even need the brass punch, which in one way is kind of making me scared. I hope the heating, when they heated this up to get the old circlip out, it didn't mess anything up. Everything just actually fit in there nicely. When going around, I just went clockwise. So everything's in there now. Now I'm going to pack the Burfield up with grease. I'm using Molly grease. I forgot the brand, but it's supposed to be pretty good. And you're basically going to take a bag, fill it with grease, cut the corner, and just squeeze it in, almost like you're doing icing on a cake or something. And then you're just going to fill it up through the center until you see the grease come out on the sides with the ball bearings. So maybe this is a good moment for me to stop and speak a little bit about why. There's two methods of doing this. One I saw where the guy took the Burfield and put it on the side and then drove it in. The reason he did that is because he was allowing gravity to help him in, and basically the circlip has a little bit of the surface coming outside of the actual splines, and that's what's going to lock it into that indent down there for the circlip. So the reason he did that is that so gravity is, instead of having it up this way, let's say if you hung it this way and then drove it into the Burfield while it's horizontal, you're going to have bigger resistance than if you turn the circlip this way and you leave the opening on the facing down, because then most of the mass is hidden within the channel for the circlip. The reason I'm not doing that is because I'm going to pack this up with grease, and then if you turn it sideways, I'm just assuming a lot of the grease is going to fall. So I'm going to go ahead, pack the Burfield up with the grease, and then I'm just going to take it this way and drive it down. But in order for me to do my way, what I'm thinking about doing, which I saw in yet another video, was I'm going to use a hose clamp, kind of like a piston ring compressor, to compress the circlip. So when I'm driving it down, then I can get it past the entry point until the actual splines are holding the circlip, squeezing it together. Then when it finds its indent, it expands and then locks everything in. Hopefully that's going to work. It's going to be messy because there's going to be a lot of grease in here, but I'm just going to put some towels over it while I'm doing the hammering down with a dead blow. All right, guys, so we're all packed up here. I'm going to go ahead and try my hose clamp technique on here. So we're going to tighten it around there and then drive the axle into the race with a dead blow hammer. All right, guys, so we're all set up now to drive the axle within the race. Since I can't see because of the grease, I put it in and just trying to make sure you turn it enough that you know that the splines are engaging with each other before you start hammering this down. And now I made sure I have a clean rag that I'm going to use to surround this and try and prevent the grease from splattering everywhere. And the reason you want to make sure it's clean because you don't want anything, any foreign elements getting into your burr field. So real quick, I'm not sure if I had mentioned this before. I put about a softball size amount of grease, moly grease, into the burr field. And now what I'm doing is I'm working it around, just making sure it's getting all looped up. I will put a little bit more. It's probably overkill. My other problem is I don't really know how far I have to drive it down. But I think I'm going to use the old race and the new axle and just measure from the inside of that race's circlip indent to the bottom edge of it. So for the next one, then I won't have this problem. But for this one, I'm just going to keep driving it down until I can barely see the splines. Or if it stops me at that point, then I'll just consider it in. All right, guys, so we got our first, this is actually an extended boot. We got that on. I got the wrong tool to do the crimping on this, so I want to make sure it gets a good crimp on it. So I'm going back to Home Depot now to go and get another tool. All right, guys, so we're going to pause here for today. I went to AutoZone. They didn't have a crimping tool, and Home Depot had something that might have worked, but it was actually had, it was for removing nails, and it had a sharp edge to the actual jaws, so I didn't want to risk it. So I ordered it off of Amazon. Should be here in 2 days. And then we'll continue on our CV axle build. All right, guys, so we're all crimped up here now. I did put an extra zip tie here. I'll probably put one down there. I know it's overkill, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything having it there as well. Now we're going to go ahead and next step is install our tulip piece back onto the inner portion of the CV axle. Guys, so now we're putting our tulip bearing, I guess you could say, back on the inner side of the CV axle. So this is the side that would be going into the differential. And I'm not so worried about cleaning all the old grease off of this because, like I said, the truck doesn't have a lot of miles. And also, if you remember, we didn't cut anything on this side, so there shouldn't be any metal. I just did run my fingers just to make sure and in the boot a little bit. But I think the manual calls for high temp yellow grease, but I'm going to use this stuff. Red Line CV2 grease. I'm going to try this out and see how it goes. So next step is we're going to bang this down. We already have our boot slipped on. And we're going to pack it with grease. And then we'll put the snap ring in, and then we'll put the put this back onto the axle as well, and then cinch it down. And sorry, I forgot. We're gonna also, in order to drive this down, we're gonna use the brass punch again, in the same way we took it off in the previous video. Now we're just reinstalling it. All right, guys. So I lost the snap ring that goes in there. So I got it bagged right now just to protect it. I had to order a boot kit because I couldn't find the exact clip that I needed. So I will be changing this as well. This is the old one. So I'm waiting for that to come in. Right now I'm going to jump over to assembling as much as I can of the lower and upper control arms. So basically that's just like driving the bushings in, etc. All right, guys, so right now we're just assembling our bushings for the upper control arms. So we're going to go ahead and stick these urethane pieces in first and then drive the metal piece in on both sides. Next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and put in our Zerk fittings. We're just going to screw them down, make sure you orientate them outwards so you're able to grease easily your bushings later. So I have everything pretty much set up to go outside and get and start banging these into the bushings. Here, they're not in the correct orientation yet because they're pretty tight, hand tight now. I just want to do one more step to get it this way using a wrench. But I am having a problem feeding a one of these through this particular one. So I don't know if the powder coating messed up the threads. So I might have to recut these threads. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to take it outside and fiddle with it and see what happens. All right, guys, so I just tapped out enough just for the first few threads there, because I didn't want to go so deep because I tried to pull these out and it was a little bit tough, so I was just going to leave them in there. I didn't go so deep, just maybe 2 or 3 threads in to see if that'll catch into this. All right, guys, so these are in now. The tap for just 2 or 3 threads worked perfectly. We're in, we're pretty secure, and I just pitched it out just a little bit. If I need to get the grease gun on there, hoping it will be a little bit easier. So now we're gonna go ahead and put the metal tube into the bushing now. So we're gonna grease up these centers a little bit. They gave me some, I think it was super lube grease. I'll go ahead and use a Q-tip to get in the center there just to make it a nice frictionless push of the tubes into the bushings. Okay, so we're all done here. Zerk fittings are in and our bushings are together. Make sure your tubes are centered. You don't want a problem while you're trying to fit it in the truck. So now I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side. I don't think I'm gonna record that. It's the same steps as this one. All right, guys, so we're gonna start working on our lower control arm bushings. So you can see here where the Zerk fitting is, one side of the lower control arm, the lower control arm itself has it's not an equal spacing on the bushing. So you just want to make sure you have it in the correct orientation. I haven't looked at the directions yet, but I'm guessing that this short one is going to go here and then the longer one on this side, so the Zerk fitting can still grease the bushing. I'll have to double check, make sure you guys double check too. And on the other side, we just have 2 equal sized urethane parts to the bushing, so it should be no problem. So we're gonna go ahead and do one of these and I'll show you on camera and then we'll get everything set up for these. All right, guys, so we're in the downstairs workshop now, just because I have a little bit more room to put the lower control arm and set it up to bang the tubes into the bushings. One thing I just realized is that the bolts are different too. The hole within the tubes is different to compensate for the different type of cam bolts that are used between the front and the rear of each portion that goes into the truck, basically. So we're going to go ahead and install these, and same thing, we're going to use our super lube here to coat the, actually I don't coat those though, but I actually coat or just run it on the inside with my finger to make sure there's a good lubrication, and then we're going to jam them in. So real quick, guys, I'm just holding the control arm up onto this bench, and I'm going to pound it down with the dead blow. Now what was happening before is on the other bench, I was actually driving them in from the inside, which was taking longer because the distance to actually drive it with the hammer was less. So this is much easier working down here. All right, guys, so we have our bushings done. I put in 1 Zerk fitting for now because I don't know what I did. I can't find, I need 3 more. And I'm not sure if I had opened the package and maybe it dropped or they misplaced it, but I doubt it's total chaos. They're very good. So it's probably on me. So I'm going to go ahead and order those. So I think after we get the other one done, we're going to be done for now, because I do have some cam gusseting that I have to weld in the truck, which I forgot to do still. So that's where we'll pick up next time. So for now, I think that's the end of this video. I'm going to jump back on the FXR and do some work.